Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our last live stream of draft weekend. Welcome back. Thank you for hanging out with us these last 3 days. Joined as always by Nate Christian, Bob Van Duzer, and Zach Duarte. Want to make a announcement. The rookie draft guide is live, everybody. So payup.com/Dynasty Rewind. You can go get it there, or you could sign up for a $10 tier. That is included in that tier. All the information is in the description. So great job, everybody here. Sean behind the scenes, he was doing a great job as well. His son Cole helping out a lot too. Cole, thank you very much. So we're good to go. Also want to let you guys know we will be answering some questions. Of course, super chats get priority. Make sure you hit that subscribe button while you were here, and any other way you want to support us, link is in the description. So, gentlemen, how we feeling? The draft is over. We're all tired. We're a little fatigued. Yeah. So up late. Up early.
Shout out to coffee, by the way.
Yes, shout out to coffee. Shout out to Waffle.
Coffee.
Shout out to Duncan.
Waffle Hauser. Thank you. Waffle Hauser.
And shout out to Emily, who made the run.
Yes.
Sean's wife made the run to go get us coffee, bagels, donuts, munchkins, everything we could possibly need to fuel us this morning to push through the end of getting that draft guide done. It's been a long weekend, boys, but it's been fun.
Hi to my wife and daughter. Thank you very much for watching. And also this comment, Sean, can you put up, I think it's pronounced Frady. I don't know how you say it. If you want to put that one up on the screen too. I just imagine Bob's closet to be 45 of the same flannels.
You are not all that wrong. I even packed a couple of the same ones this weekend. So I have the flannels I like, and I stick with them.
I respect that.
It's comfy. It's a color thing.
Bob knows what he likes. He knows what works for him.
Flannel guy. I don't know when it started, but I've adopted this life, and nothing's going to change. So.
Can't hold Bob Van Duzer down. That's for sure.
You can't keep me away from a good flannel.
That's right. So before we get started, we're going to do a couple mock drafts today. Let's open it up. And Alanis confirming, as the person who does his laundry can confirm. So Alanis checking in. Good morning to you. We're going to do a couple mocks today. Superflex mock. But before we do that, let's get some questions. And again, super chats will be prioritized. So let's see. Sean, what do you got for us? All right, so this is from Curtis Martin's stepson. Rest in peace, running back spots. Because what the heck, man? Now there's only 2, and they're going to be overdrafted.
Only 2.
So we're saying only Jonathan Brooks, only Trey Benson. I'm assuming
only Jonathan Brooks, only Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
I mean,
definitely. I think there will be some overdrafting going on because of the scarcity, but it's kind of one of those things. It is what it is. And that's how running backs, the landscape is as a whole. You have guys that are in somewhat reliable roles, and you got to kind of pay up for them sometimes. Sometimes you get away with, paying less on a veteran running back like Zack likes to, but a lot of the time, sometimes you got to pay up that little bit. And I will say, with the talent of Jonathan Brooks, the opportunity of Trey Benson, and there's a fair bit of talent there. We have our concerns, but we can acknowledge that there's still talent there while having concerns. So definitely the running back spots overall, definitely painful. I mean, we were locked and loaded with this draft guide with 25 running backs ready to possibly be drafted. And we went and essentially gutted most of them from the draft guide. And
just honorable mentions for the ones who were drafted.
Honorable mentions for the ones that were drafted, but we don't believe will necessarily be fantasy relevant, but deserve to be mentioned. And, talked about maybe, hey, this is somebody to avoid. Maybe this is somebody to stash a little bit, whatever the case is. But we were locked and loaded with like 25 or 26 running backs, and it's like 16, 17 now.
Yeah.
But
we do have an update,
which is still far more than will probably be fantasy relevant. But hey, we're here for you guys. So
from Curtis, other than Benson or Brooks, who is the best situation moving forward? Do we like Jalen Wright to Miami, Marshawn Lloyd to the Packers? For me, it's Marshawn Lloyd.
Lloyd is the easy RB3 here.
Yeah, I agree.
I understand the Trey Benson Lennox spot is better because Connor's older than Josh Jacobs. But if you look at the Josh Jacobs contract, it's a 4-year contract. That's essentially a 1-year deal with team options.
Yeah.
After that. So not necessarily that Josh Jacobs is a one and done, but I certainly don't see him there more than 2 years. And Marshawn Lloyd, with how we've seen Green Bay use running backs before, with how he fits LaFleur system, I think there's still going to be some fantasy relevance from him this year.
Yeah.
And you could even take over the backfield as of next year. I think he's that good. I comped him to DeAndre Swift.
Yeah. I don't hate that comp, and I love the upside. I texted my dad. I texted my best friend. Not that you guys aren't my best friends too, but my buddy back home, longtime brother of mine. But looking at the Marshawn Lloyd situation and knowing how Packers have treated running backs, I would not say that Josh Jacobs is a 1 year and done contract, but there's always the option that they can get rid of him as soon as the cliff comes, or as soon as they see a dip, or they really want to just get Marshawn Lloyd involved. I know we have some super chats, Sean, that we should get to.
We do, yeah. Let's put those up, Sean.
Let's knock those out. And
it's from Huss, just wants to support the crew. Huss, thank you. And if you want to, any other ways you can support us, all of our links down in the description. Anyone that sponsors us, and this is from J Lau. Hopefully, I said that right. Good morning, Rewinders. Keep crushing it. We plan on it. So thank you everybody for watching. We got about 100 people on the stream right now, just over a little bit past 10:30 on this beautiful Sunday morning. Sean, let's put Waffle Hauser's comment up here too, because he did send me this last night. The other one, the most recent one. Sorry. Yes, we are tired, Waffle Hauser, for sure. The Duncan is coming through. Nate's so tired he's wearing glasses. Yeah, actually, here, I'll put it up here. Nate, how do I use? There we go. So Waffle's saying, sent this to Mike last night, but for the crew, I got offered the 107 and Puka Nacua for my 102 and Derek Carr. I'd have no quarterback 3, but I'd have 4 months to figure it out. And Higgins would be my wide receiver 6 after this deal. So, I mean, we always say building around wide receivers, but that's building around wide receivers to the extreme, we could almost say.
Yeah, so here we're basically moving away from Puka, or we're moving away from Marvin Harrison Jr. for Puka, and then hopefully we're picking up a quarterback at 107. That's better than Carr.
this is an easy.
I think that's pretty
Puka
easy.
107 for me, because Puka and Marvin Harrison are close enough. You're hoping Marvin Harrison does what Puka has already done, and the value gap between, even if they're not close or Puka greater value, the value gap between 107 and Derek Carr and Superflex, with the opportunity to draft quarterbacks. We've seen some fall in some of your drafts, Zach, where you're getting guys like JJ McCarthy later, Drake May later. And if Drake May's your quarterback 3, as much as we have some concerns with that offense,
I think you're really happy with that.
I don't think it's just such a huge pivot, smash deal.
Yep.
Call it a day.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can all be in agreement on that one. So this is from Dynasty Live Fantasy Football. What's up, fellas? What are we thinking of Troy Franklin now? Were we taking him in rookie drafts? I have him around the 208. Went to a good spot. Fell farther than we thought he would, but
yeah, I think early third for me is where I'm looking at Troy Franklin right now.
Yeah, I think, as much as we would have loved to see day 2, and he was one of the guys that we were shocked to kind of see fall out, as much as another guy we have concerns with. But my one fear with this, while being linked to Bo Nix, which is awesome, that was, kind of a super fringe benefit of the pick. We always had that concern baked in that he was going to end up being that deep threat. And if that's what that case, if that ends up being the case, we had a tweet come out or something that he was going to be playing the Z. That kind of feeds into that thought process for me, which watch out my laptop, I'm coming for you. But that, kind of a little bit of a red flag there. And again, something was not right with him to make a lot of other teams, draft him very late as a wideout. So, as much as I like the player and believe in the prospect, and Bo Nix as well being the quarterback, I'm not sure it's super conducive for fantasy. But at the end of the day, where do I think he's going in drafts? Around that 2-3 turn, more than likely. But there's not many day 2 wideouts I'd pick after him.
And then Zach, after you answer this, Bob, we have a question specifically for you. But Zach, we want your thoughts on this.
Too much pressure.
I don't know if it's necessarily that there was something wrong with Troy Franklin, as there was just so many prospects available, right? Like somebody had to fall. Not everybody needs 2 wide receivers, and so somebody had to fall. Like, maybe in a lesser talented wide receiver crew, he is a day 2 pick. And maybe this is just the product of him falling.
That's not a great endorsement, though.
Yeah, it's not a good endorsement. And, like I mentioned this yesterday with the, it's just kind of the economy. You just need to be one person's next wide receiver up for them to draft another wide receiver. But at some point down the line, you'd expect that buck to stop. And it didn't stop till day 3, albeit early day 3, which is a little bit more encouraging, because a lot of the value in day 2 was, non-fantasy relevant players. It was O-line, it was defense. And it was kind of correcting itself from what the first round was, which was 23 offense compared to 9 defense. So, there's some overcorrecting there, but I think it's not a good sign. It's not in my opinion, yes, he could be better in another class, but, does that really change what he is as a prospect in the NFL's eyes? as much as it could change and the investment changes, I get that. I think that's a lot of where the point is, because if you're invested that much more into a day 2 pick, you're that much more likely to, hey, let's throw this guy to the wolves, quote unquote, and see what he's got, and maybe look over some of the early blemishes in development, whatever the case is. But I still don't know that that's the, where I'd draw lines there. But sorry, continue, Zach. I kind of.
No, I mean, and the other thing about that is there were 14 fantasy relevant players drafted day 1.
Yep.
That never happens. You had to see a correction coming. And, because we got on here yesterday, we're like, wow, day 2, it was only 14 or 13 guys selected on day 2. And yeah, I mean, we should have kind of seen that, because there was almost, in terms of your watch the coffee.
Watch out.
We're very tired.
In
terms of your drafts, right? You had players into the second round of your rookie draft selected on day 1.
Yep.
So we should have seen a correction coming. And, I'm not the Troy Franklin guy you have been since you were early on in the process.
Wavered.
But what I will say about it is, man, like, good landing spot at least, because there's a lot of opportunity there. Who's ahead of him on the depth chart?
Could have gone much later. Could have gone to a much worse landing spot.
Yeah,
for sure. That's going to be, you're probably going to find it pretty quick, I think, with Franklin, whether it's, worth a hold or worth flipping the second he has a 3 for 100 and a tutty game. But
Bob, this is the question for you. This is from Alanis, just checking in with my most burning question. Did Bob make it through the draft without any tantrums about any of Green Bay's picks?
I think I did a good job this year.
He was great. Well, they also didn't draft any Tucker Crafts.
Well, then they didn't draft 2 tight ends in the same day or anything like that. When they drafted Marshawn Lloyd, I was pretty happy with that. I was kind of surprised that they waited so long to address, anything to do with defensive backs. But ultimately, it was a very standard Packers draft. A lot of trenches, a lot of, defense late, a lot of trenches late. And they picked up Marshawn Lloyd, and that was a thing that I was hoping they'd kind of address, maybe the future of that running back room. They nailed it. So I'm happy with the draft this year. And I've learned that, hey, in Goody, at the end of the day, we trust. He's done a good job, and a lot of that, hey, picking up Jordan Love. I mean, hey, it was an unorthodox pick, to say the least, and very frustrating at the time. But, hey, that's panned out. You got a great wide receiver room developing. So I'm content, very content with Packers draft. I'm not like over the moon about it, but that Marshawn Lloyd pick, I'm pretty happy about. So I like the player a lot. So,
Sean, what was the next question you had for us then? This is from Chasing Breakers. Feelings on Bryce Young coming out of the draft. What's his value and where do you slot him?
I would pick him up for a late first.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where it's been. And
it really solidifies it for me.
I think maybe he's a little harder to get. Maybe you need to add a little sweetener on there. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is great news for Bryce Young. This is something we talked about the entire draft process, is go get weapons for your young quarterbacks. It helps them develop. Shocker, shocker, news to no one. But yeah, I'm much more curious to see and how Bryce Young performs this year with new weapons around him. I mean, across the board, new weapons. Coach. And a new head coach.
Yeah.
I would say wheels up, but hey, last year was not good, not great. So positive, but
Sean, do you want to take one more and then we could start mocking? Cole's going to put that up for us. What do we got? This is, Zach, let's kick it to you. Of the quarterbacks drafted in the first round, who do you trust the least or looking to move?
Well, you mean acquiring, like via the draft?
Who do you trust the least and looking to move? Let's take Michael Penix out of that.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say that's very easy. Michael Penix.
Take him out because obviously he's not going to be relevant.
Wow, that's a really tough question. I got to be honest with you, man, and I got to be honest with you. I'm just going to say Jaden Daniels.
Yep,
I agree. I
have not this entire time, and look, I'm not the biggest film guy. I'm the least of the film guys of everyone here. But I have watched enough to be very wary of what you see when he's taking hits. He's not avoiding hits. He's taking ginormous hits, and that will not last in the NFL. So unless he learns how to not take hits, which, look, he's with Cliff Kingsbury. Kyler Murray is very good at not taking hits. He doesn't take impactful hits. Tore his ACL on a non-contact play. And that's something you could say, like, hey, maybe, I don't know if Cliff worked that out of him or he was like that before he got to the NFL, but maybe that Cliff Kingsbury can work with Jaden Daniels on that. I just don't trust that. And I don't I saw what happened with Anthony Richardson. We had this conversation day one, and you have a lot of people interested in moving up to get Jaden Daniels. I had a draft already where I had the 103 and 107, and I moved it for Jordan Love in 109. And I'd much rather
I
have
love that
Jordan
move,
Love
honestly.
than Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a great example. To answer this question is Jaden Daniels could work out. And I'm okay being wrong. Like, that's the thing about is having a stance is you have to be okay with being wrong on it. And I'm okay with being wrong on it because I just don't trust what I saw in terms of him not understanding when to get rid of the ball or not take a hit. And here's the other funny thing, right? I didn't know this, but did you know Jaden Daniels threw a touchdown pass to Brandon Ayuk before COVID in college?
Yeah.
That's a long time to be in college, man.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, also breaking news, Quintez Cephas has been reinstated and signs with the Bills. So,
how about that?
That is
the bottom of my rosters.
Rest in peace, Keon Coleman.
We do have a super chat that came through. So, how about Cole? You want to put that up on the screen for us, please? And this is from Space Mountain. Thank you for the super chat. How good or bad does the 304, 306, 308 look now?
Third round, basically, huh?
I've done a couple of drafts already. Finished one last night.
Tell us what you got.
The third round is a great place to be. You really start to see the questionable picks, like, ooh, do I go here towards the end of the second round? But there's still a lot of talent in that third round. You're seeing some guys fall. We talked about Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
You could pick up potentially Spencer Rattler, mid to late third round pick.
Ray Davis.
Yeah. There's a couple of guys that we're going to talk about. Some of these day three running backs. I really like having third round picks this year. You have to have a couple of my guys in there. But we talked about this 2-3 months ago, Bob. The second and third round this year is really, really fun. It's a good place to be. And lo and behold, the end of the first round ended up being the best place to be, in my opinion.
Yep.
I actually did not want to be in evidence by that 103 and 107 trade. I did not want to be in the beginning of the first round because I'm afraid to miss big there. So the third round is a phenomenal place to be in these drafts right now. And you'll see in our mock draft.
Yeah. I think the third round is a kind of the Wild West right now. There's a lot of my guys in there. There's a lot of interesting guys falling, but there's also going to be a lot of guys that get reached on that have appealing landing spots, but have questionable profiles, questionable draft capital that you can kind of, as we've dubbed it, maybe us, whoever, whatever, fodder picks, guys that should not be going where they're going. Zach, you had a guy trade up in the second round yesterday to go pick up Spencer Rattler. And it's like in the second round of drafts, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You were torn between a couple of players and you moved back a couple picks.
Can you find that trade for me, Zach?
I know the trade right off. So me and Nate, I was at the 206 in the draft, and there's 3-4 players I still like.
Okay.
I also have the 210. And so I just reached out to the 208 and I said, hey, are you interested in moving up? He said, yes. I acquired the 208 and the 308 to move back 2 spots.
Okay.
They selected Spencer Rattler, and the next person selected Adonai Mitchell. So all my guys were still there at 208. I had the same problem I have at 208 that I had at 206, but I picked up an extra third.
Yeah. So what you're telling me is that the Atlanta Falcons general manager plays fantasy football and he is in a league with you.
Yeah.
That's what we're hearing right now.
Correct.
Live, everybody.
Correct.
Wow. Fantastic. So are you guys ready to mock?
I want to real quick before we get back to it. I want to go back to something you were talking about with the conversation about what quarterback you trust the least and whatnot. You brought up an awesome point with the question marks around Jaden Daniels, but he's the biggest value out of all quarterbacks that aren't Caleb Williams at this point. So you're moving off the most valued player that has the most questions, albeit maybe the most upside out of the group.
Yeah.
But you're moving off of all that risk to get to a more established quarterback like Jordan Love, other quarterbacks in the draft, whatever the case is. So I'm 100% with you. I just want to touch on that concept.
I think this goes back to we hate values, not players, because if Bo Nix was valued where Jaden Daniels was, and Jaden Daniels was valued where Bo Nix was, we'd be talking totally different.
There. Yeah.
Because as much as we love Bo Nix, he's also not in a great situation. I mean, we can talk ourselves into it very easily, and we like the tape on Bo Nix, but he's the other player here at the quarterback position that,
Marvin Mims, Cortland.
Yeah, that offense. Sean Payton, does he still have it?
Jaleel McLaughlin.
I think that's another quarterback to be a little wary of, and that's why, as much as we like him, we still have him as a late first. We're not picking him up in the first 6-7 picks. As much as we like Bo Nix, and if Jaden Daniels was also available 107, 108, 109, I'd be much more interested in having to pick him up at the 103, 104.
Let's not forget third round, you're not drafting guys to start on your team right now anyway. Just get good values, guys you like Zach said, have your guys in there. So I'm just putting in the chat, starting soon.
Gotta get my sleeper up.
Okay, got to get the Sleeper app up. Sleeper, the best place to
You got the flip.
mock all that good stuff.
Beautiful.
Okay. Boom. Ooh, who made that? That's beautiful.
I'm here in both cameras.
Oh, cool.
Hey.
You get double Nate in this one. My
I'm not
bad.
paying you
Exposure.
twice, though, I can tell you that.
Apologize. Did not test that.
That's okay. Hey, you know what? The way we say it is the more Nate, the merrier on the Dynasty Rewind. So and if you want more of Nate, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind, you can hang out with him and us for an entire week free. So we ready?
Ready.
Yes,
Who wants to
sir.
kick this guy off here?
Oh, I guess that would be my job.
All right.
So this is a Superflex, no tight end premium PPR mock draft that is starting now. We got Lambo leaping on the clock.
And if you want to mock with us, where would you go?
These are all of our patrons right now mocking with us through patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. We dropped this in the Goldie chat first. You get priority to mock drafts. Sean, I don't think we made it past the Goldie chat. We did make it. So we try the Goldie chat, see who's kicking around. Then we move on to the regular mock draft channel.
Good point here. Chefs dash TPDB says Nate used one eye per camera, so you can kind of get a.
Oh
split
no!
on it. That
I
would
don't know
be.
if I can get that going on or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
My bad.
All right, so coming off the board, pretty chalk so far in this Superflex mock. We got Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., and then at the 103, Malik third person neighbors. But Bob, you're up at the 104.
I mean,
what made you pick the 104? You want to see what was here?
I kind of want to be in an interesting spot because when in our mocks after day 1 or day 2, whenever we did a mock, I was at the 103 and I went JJ McCarthy, and I kind of wanted to see if that would still be available to me at this pick. And it is, and that's where I'm going. I'm going to take JJ McCarthy out the board.
I like
Happy
that.
taking my quarterback 2 here. And this is, that whole grouping of quarterbacks that was not Caleb Williams was a pretty big tier for me.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, and JJ goes to the best situation, good enough draft capital, not a top 5 pick like it was projected the trade up was going to be for him, but happy taking him here. And if he wasn't on the board, I easily would have gone one of the wideouts, probably Malik Neighbors. But Rome was a consideration because I do know that, hey, quarterback, sometimes when you overinvest, you're putting yourself on the line with that position where you could find, possibly more value in just trading down and trading to a less sexy pick like a Jared Goff, like we like to throw out as an option. But happy taking him here. Love the situation. Very much in on the player.
So we got just a couple comments here. Dynasty Life Fantasy Football, no tight end premium. Where do you see Bowers? Well, this is not tight end premium, so we'll find out very soon. And Wayne, yes, this is Superflex. First one, Superflex. The next one is going to be one quarterback. So I'm kind of, I was hoping that Waffle Hauser wouldn't take Drake May. That's who I would go for. If this was a real draft, I think I would be looking to trade back a little bit here. But that being said, at the 107, I'm going to go ahead. Not the biggest fan, but Jaden Daniels at the 107. Like we said before, hey, prove me wrong. He has every opportunity to do that. There's plenty of weapons there.
And at that value, you kind of remove yourself from some of that investment risk.
Exactly.
You get
middle of the first round,
especially if you're able to trade back a little bit. Maybe you were thinking about him at 103. That's the quarterback you really wanted to draft. Maybe you're able to trade back and let some schmuck like me come up and trade up for JJ McCarthy or something like that. But I like the pick there, Mike, and catching up Rome Odunze.
Personally, Bob, I'm in agreement with you on JJ over Jaden Daniels. So you're not a schmuck. You're far from it. I agree with you. JJ McCarthy does everything he's asked to do. You can't hate the guy for that. So just recapping while the next pick comes in, we got Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, JJ McCarthy, Rome Odunze, Drake May, Jaden Daniels at the 108, Brock Bowers. If you didn't go to Las Vegas, probably 2 or 3 picks higher, I'd say.
I don't even know if I'd
maybe
go
with
that
how
far.
the landing spots worked out, maybe he would be higher. If he had gone to
honestly
the Chargers or the Bengals or an ideal landing spot, I could see him as of the 106. But I think this is where you would see him anyway most of the time.
I think this is I don't think there's much inflection in this draft selection. #bars. With Brock Bowers, he was Dynasty Rewind ADP pre-draft was 106, 107. You see him one spot later. You get all the quarterbacks in there. JJ McCarthy is what kicks that tier out a little bit, but happy with it. I think, as much as I'd probably draft him later, I'd probably take Bo Nix over him. I'd probably take Brian Thomas over him. Xavier Worthy, maybe. Nate, you're on the clock.
I have a nice little choice here.
I mean, this is as
110. You guys are looking at my
Do it.
queue
I can
here.
see it. Yeah.
You guys looking at my queue here, and I got two options.
Do
I
it.
got two options.
Just do it.
Do the roar.
Make your flag.
Do it.
Plant my flag. But look at the running back. I could maybe use a running back here at the 110. I'm a competing
Zach wants
team. Zach wants the running back.
It's about knowing your league mates. Would we
I'm
trade
just gonna
back
be
here?
soaking up value at the 112.
Yeah, you can be second in value no matter what.
So would you trade back if you were on this spot right here?
No.
Just had a comment in the group chat. Lad coming here.
And there he is,
We're
Lad
picking Lad
McConkey at the
McConkey
110,
here.
ladies and gentlemen.
Justin
Following
Herbert's wide receiver 1, going to John Harbaugh's. I mean, Jim Harbaugh's offense and Greg Roman's offense. You might not be excited about that, but he's got no target competition. And the last time there was a wide receiver 1 without any target competition, Marquise Brown had 139 targets for Greg Roman in the Baltimore Ravens in 2021. There's plenty of targets to go around for him. I think this is a great pick here in the back half of the first round. You get a good wide receiver that you can rely on. Wide receiver 4 off the board for me.
All right. So after that, Jonathan Brooks does go. So, Zach, did you get sniped there?
No, this is a position that I said earlier. I'm gonna milk the clock here a little bit. You
What
love
it's
to
there
be
for.
you love to be in this position because, and as we talked about in our moves to make, moves not to make, you don't identify one single player to select here.
Sure.
If you have a guy that you love and he's there, sure. But it's the 112. I'm the league champ. I own this league, and I'm just gonna soak up the value of whatever player falls to me, and that's gonna be the new wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence
okay.
is. I mean, look at this value. Brian Thomas at the 112. That is insane. And look, I don't disagree with Nate. I don't disagree with Jonathan Brooks pick, but that's what we're saying. The end of the first round, there's so much value to whereas, if you can move up or move back from maybe the first half of the first round where you are very risk averse, you just soak up a team's wide receiver 1 or a team's running back 1 or a team's quarterback 1 or a team's tight end 1 at the end of the first round, plus pick up whatever you can get from moving back. So for me, just sitting here, not being disappointed at whatever falls in my lap because there is so much to be happy about at the 112.
I will say the best part about the draft being over is Sleeper finally has all the rookies in their database here, so we can do proper.
It's about time Natasha Washington got in there.
They probably do their
leave 'em
rookie
alone.
profiles like we did the rookie draft guide. Like we'll have it there, but we'll fill it out only if they get a good landing
They
spot.
didn't even give me the chance to enjoy Taj Washington. Now,
Yeah, that's true. Now it's just
I would have been drafting him in the 4th round at least last week.
I agree.
Now, who knows?
Kicks off the second round with Xavier Worthy. Love that pick.
Yeah.
I am, I talked about it day 2 or reactions to day 1 prior to day 2 live stream. I hate the pick because it's going to put people on Worthy that were not going to be on Worthy because of the drops, because of whatever issues that they don't want to like Worthy, because heaven forbid he's fast and also good at football. You look at his profile compared to guys that, also ran very fast 40s, not anywhere near the same college competition or production, especially 3 years of solid production for Xavier Worthy that a lot of players in this draft would be jealous of. And I think people are going to be jealous of the value I get at this pick here.
There were 14 players drafted in the first round. There are 13 good picks in the first 13. There's first 13. That's really strong. First 13. It could be a first 14 if the Falcons didn't F it up.
So then after Xavier Worthy, we go Keon Coleman at the 2-2. Gotta love the landing spot for Keon, even if we were never the biggest fans of the player. Trey Benson, 203. So the second running back going off the board. And now, Bob, you are up at the 204. What are we thinking here?
I am somewhat torn, but if this is my pick, I'm picking at the 204. Probably not super competitive, but there's a running back here that, looks to be that way in a couple years. But
I know what's happening.
I am a big fan of Jalen Polk going to New England.
Ooh.
As much as, the thing, there's going to be some hypocrisy to this because we very much highlighted that, hey, we do not want a wide receiver going to New England. And that was a lot of thought process that they weren't going to do anything to the quarterback room, that they were just going to roll with Jacoby Brissett. They weren't going to draft a rookie. Maybe they were going to draft Marvin Harrison in the first round. and then he'd go and be in quarterback production purgatory for how long?
Worried about Keon Coleman, who we're worried about the development that the Patriots can do at the wide receiver position.
And this is the big point I'm getting to is Jalen Polk is already that dude. We've been on this guy for a minute that Jalen Polk is very talented wide receiver, very much a do-it-all wide receiver. I'm not saying he's going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Patriots forever. I think he factors in more as a wide receiver 2 for a very long time. Polk is do-it-all, like I said, but the catching ability and Chris Sprout's physicality, and I honestly was kind of surprised to see him come in at 200 pounds, 6 foot, a thick, stockier dude than I was expecting. Did not necessarily feel that way on film. I thought, I didn't think he was a rail or anything like that, but dude shows up all yoked to the combine and just performs well there as well. So big fan of Polk, big fan of the opportunity he's going to have and the growth he can have with Drake May throwing to him. I think this is awesome for Drake May too, that they went and got somebody like this that isn't necessarily a project. And we were psyched when this pick came off the board for Polk. A guy we've been, like I said, in on for a minute. This is where he should be. Don't get cute.
Don't get cute, and don't make the mistake of thinking that Javon Baker is the New England wide receiver to have.
Mm-hmm.
I've already seen it on Twitter. People are saying Javon Baker over Jalen Polk. They just weren't paying attention before the pre-draft process. They were paying attention to Twitter scouts who were hyping up Javon Baker. There's a reason he went day 3. Jalen Polk went in the 2nd round. There is a tier between the two of those wide receivers.
A tier and a half, maybe 2 or 3.
Maybe.
So after Jalen Polk, we go Ricky Pearsall. Still one round 1 wide receiver out there after that. Then Malachi Corley before me. I went with Ben Sinnott. All he has to do is get past the shell of Zach Ertz, which shouldn't take too long, taking my tight end 2 off the board.
Okay.
Don't say it.
Well, you're up next, so maybe people are watching. How is Xavier Legette on the board? I don't love Xavier Legette, but I surely wouldn't take Malachi Corley over him, or maybe even Ben Sinnott.
Well, I did, and Michael Penix goes off the board then at the 208. So now Huss is up next.
We know he's watching.
I'd like to trade up, please.
Yeah. Shout out Devin wanting to trade up.
You may.
I love sitting here at the 210.
Silly. You're going to get Xavier Legette or Marshawn Lloyd.
I'm going to get Legette or Marshawn Lloyd, and I couldn't be happier. I was picking up Marshawn Lloyd at the back half of the 2nd round earlier, which was called a reach by some people. He goes out there, gets day 2 draft capital, one of only 4 running backs in this draft class to get day 2 draft capital.
You're not getting Marshawn Lloyd now.
Not getting Marshawn Lloyd now, but I'm getting a 1st rounder. I'm getting
Silly
Xavier
value.
Legette, who I know that this profile in the past has led to some hesitation, has led to players that have not worked out. But something that really has helped me buy in on Xavier Legette. Number one, not only did they move up from the 1st pick in the 2nd round to the last pick in the 1st round to make sure they got their guy. That shows, in a vacuum, I usually wouldn't care too much about that, but it shows that they care about getting Xavier Legette. They are investing into him. But also with that, their new coach was talking about their usage of Xavier Legette moving forward, using him on crossing routes, using him on sweeps, using him on flat routes, on posts and goes, not asking him to run a whole bunch of digs and comebacks and comprehensive, extensive routes. They're going to use this big, fast man as a big, fast man, and that is ideal. You don't try to pigeonhole one of these players into becoming an all-around wide receiver. You take Xavier Legette's strengths, you buy into them, and if they're able to do that with Deontay Johnson able to be that separator, be that more consistent guy, and let Legette start to grow, I think this is one of actually the best landing spots for him. I didn't feel that way before the draft, but based on how they have gone about getting him, how they've talked about him since, I am getting sold on Xavier Legette. And at the 210, with the upside that he brings, he could be a top 20 wide receiver with his physicality, his build. So I think he's a great value.
Yeah.
At the back.
I mean, I can't get behind Penix. I can't get behind Sinnott as much as I love Sinnott. I especially can't get behind Corley. Pearsall, fine, another 1st round wideout with a polished skill set, admittedly, as well. But, who knows how long you're waiting till he produces. But, yeah, love this pickup, Nate. Love Marshawn Lloyd, the value there, too. I think he's going to be one of the best values in the draft, especially at running back. The fact that we have, such a gap between our running back picks. Hey, maybe running backs aren't going to fly off the board.
Yeah.
And maybe they will, having team situations might force teams to want to do that. But, Zach, you're on the clock here.
I know. A lot of good players still available, but this is kind of pick your flavor land, right?
Yeah.
Which do you prefer? They're not all good landing spots, right? We're looking at Adonai Mitchell here. I know you guys are down on the landing spot. I'm not as down as you guys are. We have Blake Corum here. I'm going to shoot for a little bit of a higher ceiling here. And this is where you don't trust the sleeper ADP. You look at everyone on the board and you pick someone that has a very high ceiling. And for me, not a player I'm super in love with, but you look at the profile, you look at the landing spot, hard to argue that this is not one of the better players available on the board, and that's Jermaine Burton, who goes to Cincinnati. And he gets third round draft capital. So day 2, you know, that puts him above Troy Franklin for me. Day 2 draft capital over day 3. And again, the landing spot, being able to play with Jamar Chase and potentially T. Higgins in the first year. And obviously, I think he slots right in as the wide receiver 3 in that offense and has the opportunity, depending on what happens with T. Higgins, which, I mean, does anyone see T. Higgins being on the team next year? I don't think so. So Jermaine Burton has every opportunity to be the wide receiver 2 in this offense.
I love that you said that because he's had every opportunity in college to show up and be something for a team and has done nothing with it. And that's a chief concern. However, I am also in on the landing spot.
Bengal concern, I think.
It's a Bengal concern.
It's a Bengal concern, not a chief concern.
Sure. Yeah, there you go. Fair enough. Touche. But yeah, I like the pick here, Zach. I think it's a good value. And it's a good opportunity.
At here, you're not going to find somebody without blemish. You're going to have markers against players.
I don't disagree. I just like that you
draft Blake Corum. He's got an open backfield he's walking into.
Oh, God.
That's funny because I won the league championship last year because of Kyron Williams.
Oh, shoot. I think people won leagues on the backs of Justin Jackson. Whose side am I on? But all right. So we're at the top of this third round.
Limbo Leap, and you're
yeah,
getting a little short on the clock.
I've seen him mouthing off in the chat.
Yeah. Go ahead, make your pick, good sir, so we can
got to get to the one quarterback mock.
He's even said that he said who he wants to pick. So okay, there we go.
There we go. So Troy Franklin, there's your fall for Troy Franklin. Don't want to say fall from grace, but guy who's kind of locked in back into the first round prior to the draft, falling to the 4th round in the real draft, and now the 301. Lambo Leap, and we know.
You, Lambo. I missed that.
We will we have plenty of time to talk. So you're good. You go ahead and make your pick. But Troy Franklin at the 301. So now we're going to K Wade. This is the part of the draft where I start to get a little curious, see where guys start to go. We're in my guy territory.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Wild West.
I like it. Wild West. I like that.
But you still have it in the 3rd round. We had this conversation earlier with the Super Chat, which, by the way, Super Chat's priority questions answered. You still have guys that, you know, have day 2 draft capital here. A couple of wide receivers. There's still 1 or 2 interesting running backs, as we talked about Blake Corum. So there's still decent talent available in the 3rd round, whereas in previous years' drafts, this is exclusively day 3 picks. Like I said, you know, Adonai Mitchell may not be your cup of tea, but day 2 wide receiver, 2nd round draft capital, and I think he slots in as the wide receiver 2 for the Indianapolis Colts. So there are still good players available in the 3rd round, because that's a question that was asked earlier via Super Chat.
2 good players going off the board. JT Sanders, who was the first pick in the 4th round of the draft at 302. I love that draft spot for him here. Jalen Wright, the 3-3. So going to Miami. Like what I'm seeing. Bob, you're up at the 104.
I am up
304,
at the 104. Sorry. Whatever pick it is, 304. That sounds better. You know, Zach, you mentioned that there's a lot of players on the board that have blemishes. And I think there's one that really doesn't. When you look at their production profile, you look at their skill set. Yes, the landing spot isn't as fun, but I am, as much as I love Kyron Williams, I am still very much a fan of Blake Corum in this system. And I believe in the upside. And you know, it is something, as a Kyron manager, I do have concerns with how this backfield is going to shake out. I still think that there's a good chance that Kyron is a, you know, primary ball carrier in that backfield, primary work getter in that backfield. But Blake Corum is a good player. He would not have the production in college if he wasn't a good player. And it's not just due to this offensive line. You see him with some of the best vision in the class. Yes, he has some size concerns. That's probably the biggest blemish that there is, full pun intended. But I did want to touch on too, while we're still kind of in this pick range, Adonai Mitchell sliding down boards. And it was mentioned by our buddy K Wade, I believe, that Adonai Mitchell was a guy going at the 112, and now he's sliding into the back, top of the 3rd. And I just commented back, I'm like, he's just going where he should have been going all along. When you have all of these production concerns, and then you add in the efficiency concerns, one of the least efficient wide receivers, and then you add in the what I believe is the actual character concern, not whatever he's doing with his diabetes or off the field. But when you look at a player who takes plays off and actively takes plays off and admits to it, that alone is my issue with the prospect. Then you go to this landing spot. What are you hoping for? Because at the end of the day, Michael Pittman's there. He's the one. He just got paid, just got re-upped. Josh Downs is there. I'm not saying that Josh Downs is even going to get more targets than Adonai Mitchell, but he is going to be a threat to a target share. And then you add in the fact this offense is going to go as Anthony Richardson goes. If he can pick up the passing work and be a very good passer, which, hey, I'm not even saying that I don't think he can, but that at the end of the day, that's going to be the driving force. And then can Mitchell get over these inefficiencies that he's had in college? And I know, hey, he hasn't had the greatest quarterback, but then you look at a guy like Xavier Worthy, who's pretty darn efficient. So, how much better is Xavier Worthy than Adonai Mitchell? For me, it's always been about a round difference. And he's still sitting here on the board as we truck along through the draft.
I'm not sure why it didn't update on here. I did make my pick. It shows me about to run out of time, but
you picked Theo Johnson. That's who you
did.
Okay,
yeah.
Just wanted to confirm.
But yeah, so after the corn pick, Spencer Rattler, which I think I was actually hoping he would fall to me at my pick. He did not. So Spencer Rattler, then Javon Baker, another guy that I like as well. It says time's up, although I did make my pick on
refresh the page.
So yeah, Sean, if you could refresh that would be fantastic.
There
we go. So I took Theo Johnson at 307 because the two guys I wanted were picked before me. Blake Corum and Spencer Rattler is kind of who I had queued up with this pick, but Theo Johnson's going to walk into a New York Giants just receiving room as a whole. It's Malik Neighbors, and then there's a very good possibility that Theo Johnson is the number 2 target on that team relatively quickly. We still don't know if Darren Waller's coming back. He probably shouldn't at this point. Daniel Bellinger doesn't pose as much of a threat as Theo Johnson. So I like him at the middle of the 3rd round, guy who could be a starting tight end. Throw him on your taxi for a little bit, pull him up when you need him. And then we go to Audric Estime going to Denver at the 308, A.D. Mitchell at 309. So Nate, the 310.
Yeah.
Back to you.
I get one of my favorite 3rd round picks, one of my favorite values in the draft, and that is Ray Davis, who went to the Buffalo Bills in the 4th round. Walks right into the Latavius Murray role, which saw 75 carries last year, 22 receptions, a couple touchdowns. And I think that Ray Davis, he's a very pro-ready player.
Mm-hmm.
He can step into that role for the Buffalo Bills, which, albeit, not a high-volume role, he's a good complement to James Cook. He can take a lot of those runs inside the tackles, some short yardage situations. I know Josh Allen's often used in those situations as well. But I think Ray Davis walks right into that backup RB2 role for the Bills. And in an offense like that, there's always potential there. He has a pathway to opportunity. You can pick him up in the 3rd round. I think he's a really good running back. I'm not worried about the age. He's a one-contract guy.
Because of his age?
Because of his age, also just because he's a running back. So, if I can get a running back, a day 3 running back in the 3rd round, who I think in the next 1 and 2 years can show production, what more can you ask for, honestly, at the end of the 3rd?
Yeah, I like the pick a lot. And then, my issue with Ray Davis was always the age. And I think that's somewhat reflected in his draft capital. He was the same player, similar production aggregated over the course of his career. I think he's easily a day 2 pick, not sliding into day 3, but finds himself in a nice role. Bucky Irving off the board.
Why go? I don't hate it. Into the 3rd round.
I don't hate it either. I just hate the landing spot. Good enough draft capital. And the odd thing about this from me in this pick is it's so redundant to what Rachaad White is, in my opinion. So
it's really interesting because on the podcast, I think last week I was talking about the Bucs GM and what he had said previous to the draft about Rachaad White, and that they would be adding competition and that they would be looking for a player like Rachaad White to spell Rachaad White.
So it's just going to be a hot hand.
We do have a super chat coming through, though. This is from Lambo Elite. Please run another mock and force Nate to pick in the top 5 just so he can't take Ladd.
No, we'll
make one quarterback. I can take Ladd in the top 5.
Oh, man.
Watch me.
Joke's on you, Lambo Elite. Sorry. Yeah. Nate gonna Nate. What can I say?
I think Zack. The 1 or 2 in the next one.
Yeah, I'm on the clock here. I'm actually torn here between 2 day 3 wide receivers. One is actually my guy in the draft guide, which you can check out in the pinned comments.
Are either of them any good?
Yeah, I think they're both very good. One is Devontae Walker, who got drafted to Nate's
so that's
Baltimore Ravens. and the other is my Jacob Cowing 49ers. I think here I'm going to have to go, even though my guy is Jacob Cowing, I think he's a little bit more buried on the depth chart. Devontae Walker, I think, steps into a role day one.
Yeah.
Top 3 wide receiver on that team. So
what a good offense.
I'm going to go ahead and take Devontae Walker there, as much as it hurts my heart to do that. We preach good value. We preach taking the best player available, and the best player available is not my guy. It's Nate's guy. So I'm going to take Devontae Walker.
3 wide receivers, Zach. How you feeling about that? Sitting in the back.
I feel great.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just soaking up value is what I'm doing. I'm going to win the championship again in this league. Kyron Williams is going to take me there, plus all these draft picks. I mean, might as well just mock me at the 112 next year's startup as well.
Yeah, see, I'm sitting at the 110. I lost in the semifinals, but my score in the championship week was actually higher than yours. So just get ready. I got
you
lagged.
just ran to a buzzsaw.
I just ran into
Semi.
Yeah, Team
Scroll down a little
America.
bit so we can see the fifth round.
Oh, that's
All
fun.
All right, so Sean's going to scroll down a little bit so we can see the fifth round. There we go. So after Bucky Irving, Zach taking Devontae Walker at the 312. Then Jalen McMillan goes at the 4-1. Now we're back to K-Wade. Let's see.
Sean, it should show as the screen sits if you just hit the arrow down button on the right side.
See what we do at the 4-2.
Right.
I don't know what I'm looking for, but I think he might have just went off the board. Nope, he didn't. He's still there. He's still
Looks like
trucking.
people are getting sniped. It's always fun when you get sniped in the mid rounds, late rounds.
Yeah.
I like the Jalen McMillan pick here.
I like this. I like this third round. You know, we see 5 running backs go in the third round. That's where the running back value is in this draft. I mean, you have Brooks, Benson, Lloyd through the first 2. Maybe you'll see Corum in there, but probably not with Kyron there. Maybe you'll see Wright in there at times. But this third round is really where you're going to get your running backs. If you're looking for those mid-tier running backs to fill out your depth chart on your team, you know, have some backups with some potential. The third round is where you're going to get them.
I think that is mostly true, but I think I'm looking at one here who's a backup currently, but with 2 busted up running backs in front of him, I'm going to go ahead and snag Kamani Vidal here. Going to the Chargers, boatload of what I believe to be there will be some opportunity in this backfield because J.K. Dobbins, love him or hate him, probably most people are a little spurned by him at this point, but there are probably still people that are out there that still like the guy, believe in the talent, but coming off an ACL, coming off an Achilles, don't like those odds. Gus Edwards has always been a plotter and not offered much else in terms of, hey, go run this ball as hard up the middle as you can. So I'll take Kamani Vidal, who I think has a pretty good all-around skill set, one of the best pass blockers,
Yes.
I believe, in the draft as
I think
well.
he's,
Somebody who's going to earn the trust of that offensive coaching system, the Harbaugh system. And I think he'll, if there's any injury, I don't see any other running back on that roster stepping into a larger role, as much as he's a rookie and whatnot, but he's also, you know, with a lot of these rookies, there's age concerns, and Kamani Vidal, not the case. So I'll take him here, and I'm pretty happy with that. Taking a later shot on a running back in the 4th round. I mean, everybody else here, I'm struggling with what I'm going to do in the 5th, so I'm pretty happy getting 4 picks I like, and maybe 5th I do too.
How
But
dare you besmirch Isaiah Spiller?
So after
He did that
Jalen
himself.
McMillan and before Kamani Vidal got picked at the 4-4, we got Brendan Rice, who went all the way down to the 7th round. Will Shipley at the 4-3. Then after Kamani Vidal, Eric, all aquatic banjo. I was trying to go quarterback and all tight end. You kind of screwed that up for me. And then Waffle Hauser taking
took the
Dylan
reformed
Lobb
quarterback.
at 406. I went Luke McCaffrey, who I think we can all agree was drafted a little bit higher than we expected him to. But at the 407, he's
This isn't bad.
No,
Yeah, I don't hate this at all.
good value. I'm going to throw him on my taxi squad for a year or 2 and see what he does from there. And then Malik Washington going to Zach's Miami Dolphins at the 408. Going to be a little bit harder for him to get on the field than Luke McCaffrey, I would imagine.
Yeah, I
Stacked
mean,
wide receiver room in Miami.
yeah, well, and even here's the thing: we were having this discussion last night about discussing if this was a good or bad landing spot for Washington. At the end of the day, so much of the target share is eaten up by Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle that there is just not a lot to go around. I mean, your third receiving option is looking at a 10% target share, and that's just, is that really fun at the end of the day? And I mean, honestly, if Malik Washington could get that consistently week in, week out, he could be a solid flex play for you. But and injuries happen. Tyreek Hill is getting older. Some hopium plays a role here too. But hey, we love the talent of Malik Washington. I hope he does get a role. Certainly a better landing spot than Taj Washington and draft capital. So, and Zach, your boy Jacob Cowing.
Going to the San
Saw
Francisco
that.
49ers.
Our
Talk
boy.
about
I like Jacob.
Not cool.
I mean, in the 4th round, he is a little bit buried, but again,
He
we're
wasn't going to do anything for your competitive team.
We're
anytime soon
taking
anyway.
developmental taxi guys in the 4th round here, so I don't hate it.
You know, I love my 4th round pick here. I get my backup.
I was just going to say
I get my
Isaac
backup for
Guerrero.
CMC.
Yep.
I get a player who has a lot of potential if he has to become a spot starter. I don't know if Guerrero is the RB2 in this team right away, but there's honestly not a lot of competition, a lot of stout competition for that RB2 role behind CMC. That RB2 role doesn't get any kind of volume at all as long as CMC is healthy. We'll see if that changes this year. But if CMC is out, and we have seen Christian McCaffrey miss time in the past, in the Shanahan scheme, in the 49ers run scheme, you're putting a guy that has some of the best athletic profile in this entire draft class. You're putting him there in that kind of scheme. The potential is there in the 4th round. I mean, we have Guerrero, I believe, is a top 10 RB in this draft.
Doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much. And you're picking
There's
him up
hardly
in the-
any taken. That's
you're
pretty
picking
easy.
him up in the back of the 4th round. You know, when we're talking dart throws at the running back position, I don't think there's a much better combination of potential and value than Isaac Guerrero here at the 410.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. It's one of those guys locked into a role, extremely high value backup that if at any point CMC were to go down, if you're a competitive team and you have him, use him.
Yep.
If you're not a competitive team and you don't have any use for a solid running back, if it's a handcuff, CMC misses time, flip him
For a second.
probably for a 2nd round pick in that offense.
Yeah.
This is, you know, we use these McVay, Shanahan offenses as benchmarks for, hey, if a running back can't cut it here, he probably can't cut it. Isaac Guerrero goes to a perfect situation. I like this pick a good bit.
There's the Zack pick.
Zach gonna Zach. Tyron Tracy. Tyron
Hey, that's a
Tracy
good spot.
Jr.
That's a good
Yeah,
pick.
I like it.
12, yeah, for sure.
I think besides Kamani Vidal, this is the best running back landing spot in the 4th round. I really do, because it's a player that has a lot of development still to go. Only 1 year of experience at the position in college, and lands in a spot where there is opportunity. There's Devin Singletary there. It's Eric Gray. I mean, I believe Tracy can beat out Eric Gray, at least in terms of the value on that depth chart.
Watch
And
your mouth.
I'm sorry, you're a big Eric Gray stan.
Yeah,
He was.
I don't think Tyron
Still
Tracy's
is.
good enough as a running back to beat out Eric Gray.
I think
don't
as a
know that
running
he's
back and a
not.
pass catcher, he's good enough to beat Eric Gray. I
I
do.
wholeheartedly disagree.
I wholeheartedly disagree with you too.
That's fine.
And for the value at the 412, I think I got, besides Kamani Vidal, as Bob said, I think that's the best available running back in the 4th round, in my opinion.
All right, so we're at the top of the 5th.
Into the 5th.
What are we hoping to get out of this round, boys?
Oh man,
Somebody we
A
can
4th
flip to
round pick in
something
the
later?
future.
Yeah,
I have
Looking at a taxi squad player, right? That's what the idea is.
easily.
So who is your stash? That's what we're looking at the 5th round. Who do you feel comfortable stashing?
easy pick
Dash,
for me.
thrash, hashtag bars. That's not who I'm picking.
Stash some trash.
Yep, that's more accurate.
Michael Pratt.
I like to throw some tight ends
At the
on the taxi
5-1.
squad. Quarterback
Ooh.
sometimes.
There we
Thanks,
go.
Jared Wiley, who I just put in my queue.
Cade
Thanks
Stover
for-
before
thanks for
that.
reminding me. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to take a little sleeper, Tanner
These
McLaughlin,
are the good
who,
taxi picks.
who goes to Cincinnati. And I know Eric All went there earlier, and I like Eric All a good bit too. But I could see Eric All being slotted into, because of the question marks he has as a receiver with drops and things of that sort, also his health. Eric All is a phenomenal blocker when healthy. I mean, one of the best run blocking tight ends in this class, in my opinion. Very questionable hands, though. And Tanner McLaughlin, built to catch, great body. I believe he's a solid enough route runner and can get open. Obviously, can make catches. I don't believe he recorded a drop over the course of his entire collegiate career, which was a long one, albeit didn't play every season, was hurt in 1 year, so he missed a year and redshirted his first year. So he's been in college for a minute, so doesn't have a ton of production, was solid, like him as a player. And hey, Cincinnati, there could be a lot of people that go spend picks on Eric All, and Eric All ain't all that. And they looked at Tanner McLaughlin as a receiving option, which they really haven't had a bona fide receiving option. I think Eric All can do it, but if those blemishes show up too frequently and he doesn't develop past them, more questions on top of questions. So, see Rasheen Ali come off the board. Your favorite Ravens pick of the
That
draft.
was going to be
Either that
my
or Devin
pick
Leary, I
here,
guess.
but
Is it better than Devin Leary? I'll take your word for it. Then Jaheim Bell, another tight end stash. I think there's probably a lot of tight end stashes in this round.
Yep.
Maybe some UDFAs crack the mold. I will not be taking any UDFAs in this draft. I don't think there's anybody that was a good enough UDFA. I will say I was surprised that Dylan Johnson didn't get drafted. And I was
Me too.
howling at the moon for Dallas to draft Dylan Johnson because I thought that would have been a phenomenal landing
All in.
spot. I like Dylan Johnson a good bit. I think he probably would have ended up overdrafted and all the value floats away, but easily would have been my favorite pick and probably the only UDFA I really have a ton of interest in. Didn't care for many of the wide receivers that were left, any of the other running backs, tight ends, as much as I like Dylan Holker in the pre-draft process.
The NFL didn't.
The NFL didn't.
And that's what's important.
But
it did go to the Saints as UDFA, though, so.
Join that scrapyard.
So after the Rasheen Ali pick, we got Jaheim Bell. Jordan Whittington is who I went with out of Texas. Jordan Travis, actually after Spencer Rattler, I didn't expect to see any quarterbacks taken, but we got one there, and we got Michael Pratt at the beginning of this round. Then Cody Schrader, UDFA 2. I believe he went to the 49ers, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where everybody goes.
And then Nate is up with his last pick of this mock draft.
And you know what? I actually kind of want that guy from Utah who was the linebacker / safety who's now playing running back.
Sandvaki.
I would be interested in him here at this point because he has a nice athletic profile.
Sure.
But he's not available in Sleeper.
I bet he'll be available in IDP draft.
So I'm going to go with a different running back that also is a weird running back with upside. I'm going to go ahead and pick the rugby player from Wales.
Sure, why not?
Because Kansas City did not draft a running back this draft because they already picked up one in this guy. Let's take a shot.
Or because they already like Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I mean,
for some reason.
That's also true.
Clyde, not Isaiah.
But this guy is fast, and this is the 5'10".
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm fine with it. At this point in drafts.
Exactly.
It's the 5'10", and like I said, I'd take that the running back that out of Utah, but otherwise this guy.
Right.
I also looked at Bub Means. Good pick, Zach.
Yeah, I was thinking about Bub Means too, but then we close it out with Anaya Smith and then Bub Means. So that is our 5-round Superflex rookie mock draft. That was that was pretty fun. So are we doing questions for a little bit before we go to the next mock? Make sure that mock gets filled up. Sean, you'll let me know when that's all good to go. So Spencer H wants to know, take Caleb at 101 or trade for the 104 and 106 and shoot for Neighbors and one of May or JJ McCarthy.
Caleb at 101.
Caleb at 101.
Overthink it. 101 and 102 are as locked in and as solid as you can possibly get in your draft, unless you get a deal like Waffle Hauser got earlier, where he's getting a very good solidified asset in Puka Nacua. I'm not trading 101 for 2 other picks that I'm not super comfortable with where they are right now.
I mean, I don't hate the deal. I think it's pretty fair if you're doing that, but
take the generational quarterback and be happy.
Well, that's why he would draft Drake May.
Just leave that at that, folks.
What do you guys think about this deal?
101 for 104 and 106, right?
Yeah, I'm keeping the 101 probably.
Yeah. Okay, Bob, you?
I wasn't listening. Sorry, I had to.
101 for 104 or 6.
Streak alive.
101 or the 104 and 6.
I'll pocket the picks. Slide back.
Okay. All right. So there you go. Kind of split there,
maybe
Spencer.
depends on the situation where, maybe if I just need a good quarterback, but to start 10, give me the quarterback that I could probably also get at 104 and on top of whatever I get at 106.
Yeah.
Or maybe a quarterback at 106 and wide receiver at 104.
All right. So we're taking questions. We got a couple more people to get into this mock. So this is from, hopefully I'm saying this right. Sean, what are we doing here? This is from, I believe, Uriel Martinez. Can you tier the rookie running back / wide receivers with updated landing spots?
We have all of that available within our
Notion.
All on Discord. I'm sorry, not on Discord, but that's all in our Notion database.
We'll be on Discord eventually.
Eventually. So if you sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/Dynasty, that is where all of our tiers.
All my rankings are on tiers. Bob, your rankings are in tiers. Mike's rankings are in tiers.
Yep. All of
them. We have them on our Notion just to go through maybe the first couple guys. I mean, I have a whole tier of wide receivers with the big 3, and then I get into Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, and Xavier Worthy to go with Jonathan Brooks as 4 guys there in the same tier. In the next tier, you start getting into Polk, Leggett, Benson, Lloyd, Pearsall, Keon Coleman. I think there's a tier there with maybe 2 tiers within that tier. And then you get into like kind of the late second, early third kind of guys, which start to become pick your flavor.
Okay, so this is the next one from Lance. I have the 201 in a 1 quarterback league. I'll be choosing between Pearsall, Leggett, and Corum. How would you rank those guys?
Leggett, Pearsall, Corum.
Yeah.
Barely Pearsall over Corum though. I don't want to be sitting on a guy waiting for production for God knows how long. So but Corum, you're kind of in the same boat almost.
With Pearsall, I don't think they're trading Ayuk or Debo this year.
It's definitely not looking like it.
I mean, they're a Super Bowl team. Why would they trade either one of those guys?
Yeah,
They're not playing Dynasty Fantasy Football. They're playing to win a Super Bowl.
And especially if they're not gonna get what they want in return, and at this point the ship is already sailed. We missed the boat on whatever they could have done to maybe get a first round pick that could help them, maybe on the defensive side or maybe an offensive tackle. Who knows what they would have been looking for to get in return, or maybe just a player swap that helps them more at another position. Who knows? So I think Pearsall is somewhat buried for this year for sure. So that knocks him a little bit, but I do like the talent and I like the situation overall, but you got to play the long game. So I'll take the one who Leggett. Throw it to the Wolves.
Before we get to the super chat, PK Smith saying, since I'm catching you guys live, just wanted to say I've been watching you guys for a few months. Thanks for the content. Keep it up. Thank you for watching. Sean, do you want to throw that super chat up there? This is from J.R. Smith Goated. Thank you very much for the super chat. I've been in hibernation for the last few months. Glad to see y'all back at it. Glad to be back. Question, are we still doing audits? Yes, we are. Payhip.com/Dynasty Rewind. Link is down below.
We call them roster reviews now.
Roster reviews, that is correct. And if you want, you could also get a copy of our rookie draft guide. It is in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we looking on getting that mock filled up?
Got a couple more spots.
Got a couple more
spots left in this mock.
2 more spots. Again, just want to say, if you want to mock with us, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. That's how you get in all of our mock drafts. Whenever you mock with us, that contributes to Dynasty Rewind's ADP. That is the ADP we use here on the Dynasty Rewind. It is, in our opinion, the best. It gets updated not weekly, not monthly, not whenever we feel it. It gets updated daily by our man, Josh Hoff. Hoff, you're doing a great job with the ADP. Keep it up.
Let's do some roll call here. Shout out Sean, our producer, being helped up by his daughter, Margot.
Yep, Margot's stepping
producer in training. Then we got Caleb, Hoff, Discord moderators. Hoff, you just mentioned, does the ADP. Caleb really keeps that Discord line always in there, dropping news. And then we got all of us here, obviously, as well. Noah is out there. He contributed to the draft guide with some sleepers, my guys, draft risks, avoids, etc. Also, some analytics that you should be paying attention to when you're looking into your rookie evaluation. So just shouting out everybody that's contributed thus far along to this whole process, this whole weekend, and everything we got going on. And there's so many ways to support. A like is easiest way to do that. Dropping a comment. If you want to go further, check out patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. However you want to support is up to you. There's a ton of ways to do it. Appreciate you guys all the same. Thank you so much.
Casey has this question. Take Brian Thomas Jr. over Udunze, for a win now team at 106. Stack the quarterback already.
Nope.
I wouldn't.
No.
I missed the question. Sorry.
Brian Thomas Jr., as much as I like him, he is a little risky with his profile. Roma Dunze, not risky at all, in my opinion.
Okay, so it was between Brian Thomas and
Roma Dunze.
For a win now team.
Easy.
For a win now team.
I mean, shoot. If you're trying to win now, instead of picking one of the rookies, trade out. Explore trade out options. You can find an established veteran at that cost that could help you for sure, that is going to be good, is already good, or at least is going to be as good as they possibly can be. Obviously, injuries always a factor.
Also, Casey, you say you're stacked at quarterback. The NFL shows us last year, especially, you can never be too stacked at quarterback. So, all the guys that got hurt, you're going to have to play that waiver wire eventually if you don't pick a quarterback. But again, I agree with Bob's point. Trade for a player that is playing
or trade back if you want to make that. That's a consideration. Trade out of the Roma Dunze pick to slide back to the Brian Thomas pick. Get something on top that can also help you compete. Get something into 2025 that you can use to move to buy a player to fill a hole later. Also should be on the table.
You pick up a 25-second, you can use that in season to pick up a player you need.
Yeah.
Can we entertain the possibility that Roma Dunze is the wide receiver 1 in Chicago? Like, Keenan Allen is 33 years old. Missed a good chunk of the season last year. DJ Moore's not young himself either. And Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze are already developing a rapport. before Caleb Williams is developing one with those guys. So all I'm saying is I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a possibility.
I think
But what we're doing right now is we're slotting him in as the wide receiver 3. This isn't JSN and DK Metcalf. This is DJ Moore, who's a borderline wide receiver 1. You take away one game from DJ Moore last year, he's a mid wide receiver 2.
Okay, so similarities abound between what DK Metcalf has been, what Tyler Lockett has been, compared to Keenan Allen and the other guy, DJ
I was
Moore.
about to say that JSN's as good as Roma Dunze.
I'm not about to say that. I'm saying
You heard it here first.
no.
ladies
I'm
and
saying
gentlemen.
respect DJ Moore and respect Keenan Allen and what they've done. Yes, a little older for Keenan Allen, and yes, the cliff should be coming. But I'm over this game of trying to predict the cliff, especially when we're trying to project a player that is not that player. If you're trying to get out on that player and you want to project the cliff, by all means. But if you're going to try to, pitch me that, hey, Roma Dunze might be the wide receiver 1, I absolutely agree. It's within the realm of possibilities.
That's all I'm saying.
But the valuation of Roma Dunze should not lead to the expectation that he's the wide receiver 1.
That was the problem with JSN.
I still think the answer here, Bob, I agree with what you said. Trade for a player in the NFL now. We got a couple super chats coming in.
We get the mock started. And
Yeah,
then we can get to the super chats.
the draft is.
Mike and I do have to go home at some point today.
Yeah. So we can
Nope.
go ahead and fire it up. But we could also answer this question while it's getting started. Nate, you have the 101. So
I do.
you are on.
I'm picking Marvin Harrison Jr. It's one quarterback. I think that's pretty simple. So once Bob gets it up and running, you'll see me pick Marvin Harrison Jr. I'll talk about it.
All right. Very good. So
Get to it.
Mr. Cheesehead, thank you again for this super chat. He says, I have the 101, 102, 104, 112, 202, and 204. You've been doing some work, my friend.
Yep.
Should I draft another quarterback on top of Caleb to have 4 starters? Currently have Love and Kyler only. 12-team Superflex, half-point PPR. Keep it up, guys. Great show. Mr. Cheesehead, thank you very much. Thank you for the generous super chat. What do you guys think?
No, I think if you have Kyler, Jordan Love, and Caleb Williams, you're good. You're good. Just pick up the wide receiver talent. Get that wide receiver room really deep. Pick up Brock Bowers maybe if he falls to he's not going to fall to the 112, but
He might.
he might. And if there's a quarterback at 112, hey, get your quarterback 4 there. I don't think you need to use the 102. You're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. At 104. I would go Neighbors or Dunze. Your choice there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Very good, Nate. So Nate taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 101, like he said he was going to. And then we got Darth Zader up next. I kind of like that scream. That's a pretty cool one. Sean, you want to throw that next super chat up here? So this is from Lambo Leap. Thank you for checking in again. What 2 first-round picks could I realistically get for the 101? I think that depends on what the league format is.
I mean, it also depends on how far you're willing to move down the board. I mean, the more you move down, the closer picks you'll get. Like if you're willing to move down to 107, you probably get 108, maybe even a little bit more on top of that.
Yeah.
But if you're only willing to move to 104, I think 112 is well within reason.
I want more than that.
Yeah, you think? To move from 101 to 104.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I think the tier between J.J. McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, whoever you're picking up at the 104 quarterback wise, to the safeness, the upside that is included with Caleb Williams, everything. He's the total package here. We like the safeness of J.J. McCarthy, but does he have the upside of a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May or Caleb Williams? We like the upside of a Jaden Daniels and a Drake May, but does he have the floor of a Caleb Williams? Caleb Williams is all of that wrapped into the package. I think if I'm trading down to the 104, I want the 107. In addition, it's not going to be easy to get me off the 101.
I will
in this draft
admit.
where there's not a really strong
That's a good point.
quarterback 2 that makes me feel good about missing out on Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I always think, hey, don't be afraid. I've told everybody in the Discord, when you're making these offers, don't be afraid to go for the throat. At the end of the day, get an offer you're happy with, that if things don't pan out, whatever the case is, you're happy with the return, that you're going to feel good about passing up on whatever player you could have drafted.
Lad McConkey in the top 5. It wasn't even me.
Wait, wasn't Lambo Leapin the one that said make him
Yeah,
draft top 5? So I think this was
this is a plant job.
exactly 1,000% exactly.
yeah.
So,
I love this. Thank you very much.
and hey, look again, the NFL and dynasty analysts everywhere saying how to build your fantasy team. In this one quarterback league, we got all wide receivers going off the board: Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, Lad McConkey. Picks 1 through 4.
We got
Bob,
one more coming
you
because
got one more.
I'm torn between
Aiden
Brian
Mitchell
Thomas
incoming.
and Xavier Worthy. I'm going to go Brian Thomas because while Xavier Worthy is linked to Patrick Mahomes, he's not Tyreek Hill. Doesn't have the same size profiling. And Tyreek Hill is 1 of 1. You know, you're going to keep chasing him, and you're not going to catch him because he's really fast, but also you're not going to chase him because 1 of 1. As much as I love Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas gets to go in and profile as the one in that offense for Trevor Lawrence. I think at the end of the day, we see Xavier Worthy, however things shake out, you know, between him and Rice, Travis Kelce, maybe Jared Wiley in a couple years, whatever the case is. I don't see him being the one. Could he be the 2 for Patrick Mahomes as much as I love Worthy? And that would probably be pretty effective for your fantasy roster. I'll take the 1 right now and Brian Thomas and call it a day. Trevor Lawrence, pretty good quarterback himself.
Yeah. Although people are down on him for some reason. So after Brian Thomas,
the expectations.
Xavier Worthy goes, then Jonathan Brooks, Brock Bowers. So we got our first 2 non-wide receivers, Caleb Williams at the 109. And you know what? I know a lot of people, they're always very bearish on quarterbacks going in the first round in a 1 quarterback league.
Yes.
Yeah, but hey, we're all saying generational talent.
Agree
1
both.
quarterback league, you got to start quarterbacks too. Honestly, I had Caleb Williams in my queue. If he was there at the 111, that was going to be my pick.
I find this very interesting. Brock Bowers went at the 108 in our Superflex mock. There's no quarterbacks picked before him, and then the 1 quarterback, he still goes at the 108, which means I think in Superflex,
he could easily fall
to the 112.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody has to fall. There's so much value at the end of the first round. Somebody has to fall, and it could be Bowers. You could be looking at 4 teams at the end of the round. Set at tight end. Don't want to deal with headache. You know, if those 4 teams are championship rosters, or you know, leading up to that, those 4 teams are competitive teams. They might already have a good tight end that he falls, and this is why knowing your league mates, knowing the teams around you in drafts, because at the end of the day, while it's so important to draft best player available and not given to the want to draft need, that's what everybody does, or a lot of people will do in your drafts, because you're not always drafting with super experienced players. There are a lot of leagues out there that are cutthroat, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, you're never going to know how your draft's going to fall.
Or hey, with a good comment here too, Bob, starting to cut you off. I'm thinking of taking Jonathan Brooks around there too, because there's so many wide receivers, agreed, but only 2 running backs whose spots I like, and I have enough picks to grab one later. Don't forget about Marshawn Lloyd too.
You better not like Trey Benson's landing spot. That better not be the one we're talking about.
3 running back landing spots we like.
Yeah, there's 3 there.
Not 2,
yeah,
3.
for sure. Marshawn Lloyd, get in on the bandwagon.
Sure.
I am so pumped on what that could be for the future. I mean, Marshawn Lloyd's skill set really meshes with that offense in that gap scheme, so and zone scheme, I should say. But I'm a fan of what Marshawn Lloyd is going to be for that offense.
We've been calling day 2 draft capital for Marshawn Lloyd on this podcast for a couple months now.
Mm-hmm.
He got it. We're not surprised. A lot of people out there may be surprised he went over guys like Jalen Wright, who are more loved throughout the community than Marshawn Lloyd. But we've been on Marshawn Lloyd for a while now, and we're really excited about this draft capital and the landing spot.
Yeah,
You're up. About to run out of time, by the way.
That's fine. You go ahead and start talking about your pick.
Well, so where was I? Where did I leave off at? I think after Caleb Williams, Trey Benson goes at the 110. I take Xavier Legette at the 111. Jane Daniels. So we have the 2nd quarterback going in the first round of this 1 quarterback league. And then Nate Marshawn Lloyd, who we were just touching on, goes at the 201. Darth Zader taking Drake May, the 2-2. So Zach, what are we thinking here? What are you leaning?
This is definitely a wide receiver pick. I mean, you still have a couple 1st-round wide receivers available. There's also Jalen Polk.
I was considering Polk. I could have gone wide receiver 201, but I just picked up Marvin Harrison with my 1st-round pick. I'm happy to pick up a top 3 running back.
Essentially the last good running back that you think is going to be viable relatively soon.
I think Blake Corum, personally, maybe a little bit higher than that side of the table, could be there sooner rather than later. But I still would have him as my RB4.
So are you saying I'm low on Corum or high on Corum? Because I drafted him in the last mock.
You are lower than me, higher than Zach?
Oh no, I'm higher on Corum than you. I actually like the talent of Corum.
So
I'm going to draft him here.
Zach going Keon Coleman. I think, correct me if I'm wrong without pulling up the other mock, this is quite close to Keon Coleman's ADP from the last mock. Okay, so we kind of see his consensus.
Jalen Polk went 2-4 last mock.
Yeah. Okay, so Jalen Polk going at the 204 yet again, and then Bob is up, and I feel like Lambo Leapin might have been doing some sniping on the old Bobcat.
No, he sure did. That was my pick, but hey.
Well done, Lambo Leapin.
I picked Polk in the last mock. I don't want to get him in this one too, and that opens up me to drafting my boy, my guy, Ben Sinnott. Again, love the landing spot. love the talent, been in on him for a minute, saw the film, saw the blocking, day 2 pick, came to fruition. Goes to an opportunity too where, hey, not a lot of tight end competition there, if any. I think you're looking at Cole Turner, and I ain't scared of Cole Turner when Ben Simmons got the 2nd round draft capital and skills at playing football.
Yeah, it hasn't quite
so
worked out for Cole Turner.
I'm
so.
happy taking Ben Simmons off the board here, although there is plenty of good talent on the board. That's kind of a my guy pick for sure, and I wouldn't necessarily advise that with the talent on the board. But something that I think we're going to think about with this draft as it rolls on, with the quarterbacks being spread out as much as they are and the amount of good quarterbacks that there are, there's not a lot of quarterback scarcity in this draft. So be very careful about when you decide to draft a quarterback. If you can wait as long as you can to draft one, if you're in on all the top 5 guys, not named Michael Penix, wait as long as you can. Don't, miss out entirely if you need one. But in a one quarterback, there's just so much a lack of scarcity. And that's why we play Superflex. We're not league shaming here. We're trying to help out with one quarterback leagues as well. But take the value of the top positional players, the running backs, the wideouts that do exist in this draft, and take your quarterback a little later, because you're going to look at your team later. You're going to look at, let's say Jaden Daniels or Drake May at the 2-1, because that's about where they average out. And then you're going to be looking at you could be drafting JJ McCarthy at the end of or at the top of the 3rd, end of the 2nd. And you're going to compare the 2 quarterbacks pretty close. But you're going to be comparing those positional players, and it's going to be night and day with what you're looking at difference-wise there. Unless your draft board breaks really weird, then who knows? But
also, if you're looking at quarterback and it's not Caleb Williams and you're looking at the end of the 1st or the early 2nd, why not just trade for a quarterback at that point? I think you're going to get much better value, get someone that is going to contribute to your team. He's probably your backup anyway, so you don't need to take the risk of taking a Jaden Daniels or Drake May. I would just, if you're looking at quarterback at that point, I would strongly consider trading for one at that point.
Yep, I'm with you there.
But I will say this, at the back end of the 2nd round, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Bo Nix. Yeah. Some of the guys I like, but I think I could wait on them a little bit. So after Ben Sinnott going to Bob, we got Troy Franklin, Ricky Pearsall, JJ McCarthy, Jalen Wright, Jermaine Burton. That ADP is a climbing. I took Bo Nix, and then we have Blake Corum, who looks like Nate might have gotten sniped.
I was going to pick Blake Corum just so I could dunk on Bob over here.
Why? I like Corum. I've folded to the conversation. Come on.
But I can't pick my favorite day 3 running back, Ray Davis, here at this point, because I think there's still some other talent on the board. In the 3rd round, especially in one quarterback, I'm willing to burn this pick if I need to. So I'm considering Adonai Mitchell here, just as an upside pick, with my 3rd round pick. Why not? I also like Roman Wilson here. I think he steps right into that wide receiver 2 role for Pittsburgh. And also Jatavion Sanders, still a tight end I would like at this point as well. As much as I like the upside of Adonai Mitchell, I still worry about that landing spot. I'm going to go with Roman Wilson, who has a immediate path to opportunity and production in Pittsburgh. We've seen how well they have developed wide receivers outside of the 1st round in Mike Tomlin's long tenure there. But he has had 5 or 6 receivers outside of the 1st round who have gone for over 1,000 yards. I don't know if Roman Wilson is going to be doing that, but I could see him at least, getting 600, 800 yards and being a potential flex for my team pretty early on. So not bad in the 3rd round.
Yeah. JT Sanders right after you, by the way.
I like that pick.
Yep.
Yeah. And so Zach, there we go. There's the AD Mitchell. I guess
I
think the AD Mitchell boy on the
I would have preferred any of those other 2 guys in front of Adonai. So I was a little perturbed that went down, because now my draft is looking a little sus, right? I've got the high risk, high reward players.
Those of you who are aging like I am, sus means suspect.
Or suspicious.
Anybody wants to know? Or suspicious, yes, however you want to
suspicious.
Look at it. So Lambo Leapin doing his best right now to figure out how to snipe Bob. 2 Packers fans dueling in the 3rd round.
There ain't nothing I want here, so good luck to you, pal. I was even going to say with this pick, I'm like, there is just
Bob wasn't going to take Tez Walker.
No, I wasn't. At this point in drafts, I'm willing to jettison any picks I have. There's one player I do like a good bit on the board here, probably more than anybody at this table does, and that's going to be Jalen McMillan, a guy who I think a lot of people soured on with the poor final season, playing through injury, also just missing time in general. But going to Tampa, while definitely not an opportunistic situation from day one. You got Chris Godwin, you got Mike Evans. at this point in drafts, probably, in my opinion, one of the most polished players in general across the board, pairing in day 2 draft capital. I'll take the pure prospect and, being, appropriate age. He's not, anybody who's played 6 years or anything like that or anything crazy. So I'll take Jalen McMillan, and I'll take my polished route runner who may be just a little less exciting landing spot wise and,
just so you know,
profile.
Our Jalen McMillan stand chiming back in. That's Mile High Luke. McMillan outproduced Bulk every time they shared the field together. McMillan is a dog. Well, hey, Bob
Don't
did say.
miss me with that.
Yeah, just so you know, Mile High Luke, anytime you watch a video, Bob's favorite compliment to a player is he has that dog in him. He also very much
Not
appreciates
analysis.
vibes. So after McMillan, we got Ray Davis, Javon Baker, Brendan Rice, who I feel like, Aquatic Bando, I've liked a lot of your picks. I feel like that might be a little too early for Brendan Rice, but you got your guy. Malachi Corley, the 309, then Michael Penix at the 310. Michael Penix, probably a guy that I'm not going to draft.
Am I even
I
him in one quarterback?
I will not have Michael Penix on any of my rosters at any point. I just have no interest. I'm sorry.
So I'm going to go ahead and take a guy who might be the last viable starter at tight end right off the rip. 311, Theo Johnson. I said it before in the last mock. He's coming into a room, not much competition for tight end targets. So we are about to close out this third round.
Well, it's getting ugly already.
It's been ugly, Zach.
Why do we do a 5 round? Why would we do 4 rounds?
I'm here for the people, Zach.
All right, so Lambo Leapin in the chat here wants to know, Bob Van, would you even take Penix in the 4th? I wouldn't. I know you didn't ask me, but Bob, would you take him in the 4th?
Process says you should, because at the end of the day, if it's a one quarterback, I'm probably still not looking. But if you're in a Superflex, happen to be in it, absolutely he should be drafted. I just am going to let somebody else do that public service for me, deal with it, because at the end of the day, I think maybe you flip him for a second at some point, because the weight's going to get old. Got old with Jordan Love. Michael Penix, in my opinion, is not as good of a day 1 player. Maybe not. Okay, I'm sorry. He's a good day 1 player, but at the end of the day, I think Jordan Love's certainly more upside. Plenty of questions coming out of Utah State, but Michael Penix should have been going to a place that was starting him day 1, not when he's 28 years old, which isn't too far away, but admittedly.
And then after my Theo Johnson pick, Will Shipley at the 312. I mean, at the end of the 3rd round, I wasn't the biggest Will Shipley fan. Don't really love his spot. It's going to take a lot for him to get on the field there. Then Kamani Vidal. Now that, personally, if you would have flipped Will Shipley and Kamani Vidal, I would have liked that a little bit better. I think Kamani Vidal, I saw a tweet today. All he has to do is try to beat out Gus Edwards and the shell of J.K. Dobbins, which isn't.
It's factual.
There's also Isaiah Spiller there.
Also a shell.
I mean, look, we had high hopes for Isaiah Spiller, but it's not like he hasn't an opportunity last year. Austin Eckler just not as good as we thought he was going to be, and Isaiah Spiller had chances. He did nothing with them.
Let Josh Kelly continue to beat him out, which is not a good thing. So I went Kamani Vidal. I think he's got another running back late with a path to opportunity. When you're looking at the 3rd and 4th round for running backs, you're looking at who has the quickest path to opportunity, because either I'm drafting a running back so I can have a potential flex spot starter when I need them, or I'm looking to flip one of these guys as soon as they get an opportunity. So running backs, how quickly can they get production? Kamani Vidal does not have a very convoluted path to get to that.
Yeah, I agree. And Luke McCaffrey after that, Bucky Irving at the 4-3, which I think that's a good spot for Bucky Irving.
Yeah, I considered him at my 4-1.
Jacob Cowing at the 4-4. Bob, with less than 30 seconds left, how are we feeling?
I'm going to go Isaac Guerendo, not Isaiah Guerendo. But
that pick.
I was torn on Malik Washington here, because at the end of the day, I think Malik Washington has more, not standalone upside, but probably a better floor than Guerendo. Guerendo could just be a backup and a handcuff for his entire career. I don't think anybody would be super surprised. Isaac Guerendo, one of the most athletic running backs ever charted by MathBomb, RS scores. That's where they come from. And typical 49ers pick. This was almost like one of the, put it on the board, bingo card type picks. And while, sure, back up to McCaffrey, not a lot of, competition for that role. They've talked about wanting to get somebody that can spell McCaffrey. I'm not saying you're going to be able to start Guerendo week in, week out, but hey, maybe there's a couple weeks where McCaffrey, they want to play it safe and keep for the long run. They're going to be a competitive team. Maybe Guerrero gets in there. Maybe McCaffrey does miss significant time. Who knows? If Guerrero can't succeed in a larger role with the 49ers we talked about in the Superflex draft, and if I need him to start, I can spot start him. Or if I want to flip him to the CMC manager who probably needs a starting running back, it's not bad process. I immediately improve on this 4th-round pick at some point, or it's a throwaway pick anyway. So
Tyrone Tracy gone off the board.
Right after Braylon Allen at the 4-6, then we got Tyrone Tracy.
Now, Lee, look, there's a little running back.
Little running back
here in
run,
the
fourth
pun
round.
intended. Pun fully intended. Braylon Allen, purely a handcuff at this point, I think. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Tyrone Tracy has some upside we've acknowledged. Rasheen Ali
going off the board as well.
That was going to be my pick, hopefully, but it's okay.
not
We pivot.
anymore.
We pivot.
Get
That'll
your
be all right.
cue ready.
There's a tight end for you somewhere.
Oh, there's definitely still some tight ends. on the
Yeah,
board.
there is.
Laube going off the board. All right.
I'm going to take him.
6 running backs go off in a row.
And then I took Eric All
Not
for
bad.
11. So he's going to go right on the taxi squad at the
Yep,
411.
should.
Just
Yep, that's a good spot for him.
take a year and enjoy.
My next player who I'll be picking will also be going on my taxi squad. Anyone you pick up in the 5th round, you're usually looking at them as a taxi stash.
Yeah.
And if not, then payup.com/Dynasty Rewind. You need a roster review because if you're drafting starters here, we need to have a chat. So
Yeah.
check
Guys that
out.
you're expecting to be starters or that you're slotting into starting lineups. That's the note. They could be starters someday, maybe for a bit, but should not be going into your starting lineup anytime soon. Ideally, in a perfect world. So who we looking to get out of this 5th
I have
round, boys?
2 players in my queue here at the 5.
That's how many you need?
Yep. I should be good either way. I got Jared Wiley, tight end,
Ooh,
Kansas City.
That's a good one right
Nice
now.
little
man.
taxi stash there.
And he's there.
And I have Malik Washington also in my queue, who I like to possibly get the wide receiver 3 role with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I could really go either way here, but the 6th-round draft capital for Malik Washington does worry me a little bit.
Sure.
It's unfortunate. I was hoping for better than that. So I'm going to go with Jared Wiley, who got early day 3 draft capital, goes to a place where he gets to learn behind Travis Kelce. I was actually a little more impressed with his tape than I expected. So while I'm not expecting him to be the predecessor necessarily, the next guy up to Kelce and to replace successor, yeah.
Predecessors
That
before.
would be Kelce. I don't expect Wiley to be the next Kelce, but even if he's half that, you would be ecstatic.
Pretty happy. Yeah. For sure. Zach, what are you hoping to get off the board so I can plan my pickup more?
Well, I have a queue here of a couple players. I'm kind of hoping Spencer Rattler's still there at 5'3". I mean,
I hope he
that's
is too.
that's
for
as
you.
good of a stash as and he's not.
Rip.
So
Spoke too soon, Zach.
why'd you have to ask me, man?
He was definitely picked before the camera uploaded
with
to
the
the
link.
internet.
Yeah. Sure. I got 2 players here on my queue left. You talked about Malik Washington. I'm gonna go with actually a player that got a little bit better draft capital in what I
Tim
believe.
Bremen?
Yes. Go Tippy.
I'm gonna go Bub Means again in the 5th round. 16.5 yards per catch his last 2 seasons. Not the greatest offense there in Pittsburgh. So how much is that is mean? How much of that is means? How much of that is the system and the lack of consistent quarterback play at Pitt? Goes to an interesting system. I mean, look, it's not like the depth chart behind Chris Olave is like anything set in stone. So that's all I'm doing there. Is I'm throwing a quarter in a fountain and making a wish is what I'm doing there.
I was thinking about drafting Malik Washington last round. I just got him in the 5th. I'm stoked.
It's beautiful. It's a good spot.
That's the last time you'll ever see Bob excited about a 5th round pick.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
pumped
know.
about
I
this
love
pick,
that.
man. I'm all about it.
Well, we got a quarterback, another one going here. I didn't think I'd see any after Spencer Rattler, but Jordan Travis going off the board at
There was
5'6".
some hype around him on the ESPN broadcast. last
Man,
night.
there was. I
Yeah.
mean,
I like quarterbacks
don't
that
know
are
why,
good typically. So
I mean, I get. Well, and you have to keep in mind a lot of these. There's a lot of they don't want to tear people down. They want to, and sometimes it comes across as
I
like
do.
they want to look at, hey, this guy can do a lot of things, whatever it is, and sometimes that gets rubbed off as, wow, this guy's really good. They said so many nice things, but a lot of times you got to be careful. Sometimes they just don't want to be jerks, and that's
Also,
fine. I think that's a good way to
Look at who he was throwing to. I mean, he was throwing to Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, so his receivers couldn't create any separation.
Jaheim Bell.
Jaheim Bell, he also not the best at creating separation.
Sure.
So it's not like while he had talent around him,
Yeah.
not not the most ideal talent.
Yeah.
For college.
And every time I
quarterback.
put someone in the queue, they just get taken right off.
Stop putting them there.
Taj Washington.
Put more tight ends on your queue.
How about it? Taj
I have two on
Washington.
there, but I'm trying to look somewhere else too.
Taj
Just
Washington.
go for the 3 tight end special. It's
You know
very
what? I'm probably
trademarky.
just going to do that at this
Mike.
point.
Signature.
That's all that's here.
Signature moment.
Oh man.
There we go.
All right. Look, I've started the hype train for Rezammer right there.
I love
You.
that for you. So once we get done with this draft, we will have a time for just a couple questions. So if you really want to support the brand, check out, help us out. Super chat, get your question answered. And if you want to get your question answered 24/7 anytime, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. Check out that Discord server. Get in for a free 7-day trial. Boys, this has been a fun mock. This has been a fun weekend.
It's been a very exhausting weekend too. I think we could all agree on that one.
Yes, we work hard. We play hard, but man, we worked hard this weekend. We put in a lot of work on this draft guide. With the Patreon side of things, that should be loaded up by now. We might just have to hit publish on it, but that is the end of this mock draft. So if you're in the Patreon already and you're looking for that, that'll be in our shop in the Patreon app or via desktop. You can get there for sure. We'll just probably have to hit publish at this point. But something else we're going to be looking to do with patrons as well, getting Goldie League started up, as well as some other Patreon leagues as well, to just really hang out with you guys that much more, get some new leagues started up. I know you guys are probably fiending patrons out there as well as everybody that wants to, that supports this brand. We want to hang out with you too. So that's the way to do it. If you want to get in leagues with us, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind, get in that Discord server, hang out with us, start up a new league sometime this week, probably not today.
Definitely not today. Today we're going to start
Travel
working
home.
on the show sheet, and update rookie rankings is our priority for right now. But we do have a super chat coming in. Mr. Cheesehead again, thank you for the super chat. For the rookie draft, opinions on running a 24-hour clock to encourage trading or regular 5 to 10 minutes. Also, when to draft after the NFL draft. I like to draft after the NFL draft. Let us enjoy the draft or before week 1. I mean, look, when you draft is up to the league. I like to put that to a vote personally, and then that way nobody can complain to me like, hey, we all voted on it. And you know what? I don't like 5 to 10 minutes unless everybody can really pick a day to knock it out, but maybe not 24 hours. Like some people do 8 and then it pauses overnight.
The best thing you could ever do for your rookie drafts is make it a slow draft.
Yes.
Whether it's 4, 8, 10, 12, 24, no time limit, depending
Unless
on your
you're in
league.
person, of course.
Unless you're in person, yeah, sure, you can probably do a little shorter timer on it. That would be a long time hanging out together. But hey, if you're like that with your friends, by all means. But one of the best things you could ever do, I was when I first got into Dynasty, we did fast drafts more often than not. And sometimes we were together with, my home league. But the second, I was in, online leagues or whatever you want to call it, watch out laptop. We would do fast drafts. And then one year we flipped it to a slow draft, and my Lanta, the activity that picks up around draft time, it is so awesome for your league. Do a slow draft, do it after the draft. If you're going to start doing anything before drafts, I highly, highly, highly recommend being more active in the scouting process.
Yes.
Because there'll be times that, there's this hype news on this guy. Brendan Rice was somebody that was being drafted, maybe in the 3rd round of rookie draft, maybe still kind of close to there, but much less of a situation than he was having. A lot of people were projecting day 2, early day 3, not a 7th round pick. Yeah. So that's just one example. There's plenty of other examples. Troy Franklin. There's guys that have been drafting him in the early there's guys that I'm sure were 4th or 5th round picks in our rookie drafts, maybe even 3rd, that went undrafted. And that's just kind of how the scouting process goes. There's a lot of players in the NFL draft. Some of them just don't make the cut for the NFL in the NFL's eyes. But get a slow draft going for your league. Vote on that 100%. Whenever you want to do it is up to you. We don't league shame. Do it in May, do it in June, July, August. Before the season is ideal.
But I will say this, if you ever do it in person, you still should put a timer on the picks.
Oh, for sure.
Because I've done slow or rookie drafts in person, and there was a time where these guys were working on a trade for so long, it's 45 minutes between picks. And it's like, hey guys, come on. So that's when we started putting timers on it, and it's like, well, what are you going to do? Then the draft moves on. Okay.
It's like when the Vikings miss their pick, hey, the next team gets
the draft rolls on. We got a couple more super chats coming in. Let's get to those.
You guys.
Mr. 1-2 just throwing some money at us saying, thanks guys. No, thank you. We appreciate you and everybody that tuned in. Lots of great comments today as well. So, Mr. 12, thank you. And then,
nice.
What's that? Oh, that's
also
right.
a Patreon. Yeah.
Yeah, he is a patron of ours as well, a rewinder, as we call him.
Super supporter.
This is from Lambo Leap as well. 101 for Jordan Love and a 25 first.
Wow.
Yes or no?
Done deal.
Done deal for Bob.
I am probably
Zach. You just traded for Jordan Love as well. You didn't pay this price.
Do you have any idea where that 25 first is?
It doesn't matter.
To me, it does.
It doesn't matter. But what I am doing with this is I am still asking for something more in this draft, maybe a second.
$3 fab is what Zach.
No, I want something in this draft. I want a second or a third in this draft.
Yeah, because the way I see it is the gap between in a startup draft right now, the gap between Caleb and Jordan Love is
less than a round.
Yeah, so I mean, the fact that you get
I've seen Jordan Love go in the first of startups.
Yeah, so I mean, the fact that you're getting a first on top of Jordan Love for Caleb Williams, done deal.
Either same tier or Caleb is just
the first you're getting
upside.
Even if it ends up being 112 is not you're getting more back in return.
Here's what I do also. I don't counter this deal. I leave this deal alone and send a different deal because sometimes asking for more might
lose this. You don't
right.
lose this.
I don't want to lose this trade offer. Sometimes countering and they'll just decline and not give you the original offer. Send a completely new offer and ask for a second or a third round pick.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't hate it at all. Honestly, you're getting a proven player right now with Jordan Love. Additional draft capital on top of it. I do agree with Zach. Ask for a little bit more, of course.
And when you do that, when you leave that one trade on there, maybe you're tipping your hand a little bit because the other person knows you're interested, but also you're telling them, hey, I'm interested, but I just need that little extra, and we have this done deal. Right. And maybe they come back to you and say instead of a second, it's a third. But like you're keeping it,
even be a move up.
You're keeping that little tie. You know, like, hey, we're still here.
And you say what Nate said. I need something a little bit extra this draft because I'm moving off the 101. I'm moving off a generational talent. I need something this draft, and I would even accept a move up from the third to the second or something like that. Doesn't have to be an additional asset, but I do want something a little bit more now because I have to wait a year for that other asset to matriculate.
All right, Sean, let's take a few more before we head out. What do you got for us? This is from Ryan. This is a 2-quarterback league. I've got the 102 and the 101 is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. Odd for a 2-quarterback league, but that should I still take Caleb or should I try and trade back?
Caleb.
I'm taking Caleb there.
Don't think this over too much. Just take Caleb.
Unless you're getting Jordan Love in a 25 first, then there's a consideration there, I guess.
Yeah.
And a third trade up to a second.
Deal.
Yeah. Also, I'm just curious how you know that the 101 is going to be Marvin.
They might have telegraphed it to the league.
Okay, yeah. Just curious how.
We already have 3 quarterbacks. And I'm like, well, I'm going to take Marvin.
His name might be Starvin Marvin or something.
Might be Marvin Harrison.
Might be
Sr.
smoke screen. Who knows?
Might be Marvin Harrison Sr.
All right, Sean, what else do we got? Wesley wants to know Anthony Richardson for the 103 and 203 in a 10-team Superflex.
Sure, if you like Anthony Richardson. I think this is fair value for Anthony Richardson, especially in a 10-team where you need studs, you need the guys that make the difference. He has that kind of upside. I'm not a huge fan of Anthony Richardson myself. I think he's a little risky. But I think the value here, I mean, you're getting J.J. McCarthy if you're looking at a different quarterback.
Possibly Jaden Daniels if you like him better.
I'd rather have AR than Jaden Daniels.
Me too.
And I'd probably rather have AR than J.J. McCarthy just in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So I think AR is probably the move here. Though I don't hate 103, 203 if you have another good quarterback already and JJ is just kind of slotting into your quarterback 2 spot or maybe even your quarterback 3 spot. But I'm also okay with making the move here.
All right, Sean, what else we got here? It's from John Paul. Said, would I be crazy for drafting Brooks over Bowers at the 108? Running back scarcity in my 14-man league is wild, and nobody ever trades running backs. I've been tipped off that the 109/110 is also targeting Brooks. I also have the 111.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I make this move. I'm down.
I do too.
Yeah.
And what you do with drafting Brooks at 108 is push somebody else down to a 111.
And the problem with what he's saying here, not that it's a problem, but running back scarcity in my 14-man league is wild. Nobody ever trades running backs. That just drives the value of them up. Yep. So whenever you do want to move off of somebody, you can get more
in your draft. We've touched on this in the past too. That with in Superflex, one quarterback that's probably the cheapest you're ever going to be able to draft them a lot of times, unless they fall off a cliff, which is very possible. But running back, same thing. You know, it's rare that you'll get a running back cheap until the wheels are about to fall off, or when there are really bad situations before the breakout, kind of a thing. So I don't hate this move.
You take Brooks, and then at the 111, if Bowers isn't there, which I think there's a decent chance he is, if Bowers isn't there, you can use the 111 to still fix your tight end position with someone who's not on the board.
Yeah, 100%.
You can trade the 111 for a good tight end. So if you really need a tight end, you can still go Brooks. You can still figure it out with the 111 by either drafting Bowers or trading.
Go after Trey McBride. People might think Tippy Ryman's coming for him, but Tippy Ryman is a blocking tight end.
He is most certainly.
He was an incredible blocker. You know, when you see these guys at the combine and they just, you know, shove this Fred the Sled around places, that's just one of the funnest drills they have at the combine.
What about some other tight ends other than Trey McBride?
I think that
might be a little bit of a reach.
I think you might need to pay up more than the 111, but hey, there are going to be people out there that think.
But you can certainly easily get.
Try to get Evan Ingram plus.
Yeah.
That would be fun. I'd be about that.
Yep. I mean,
depending on where your team's at, you know, I don't if your team is not uber competitive or maybe a little older elsewhere, maybe Evan Ingram isn't that.
I'm judging based off his 2 picks, 108 or 111. One of those are potentially his. So middle of the league. Or
I believe if this is the team I'm thinking about, I believe we've done a roster review for this team. And I want to say that this team
looks familiar.
Has been a rebuilding team. So I could be wrong. I know, John Paul, you've been in the comments before as well. So I think that's the case. I think it's ascending. I think it's heading the right direction. But so Evan Ingram might be the move. I think that you definitely get a Evan Ingram plus on that. But, you know, maybe looking at those younger tight ends. Who knows? Not the super young ones. But.
Okay, we're going to be heading out of here soon, but Sean, why don't you bring another one up for us? This is from Ken, rebuilding with the 102 in a 16-team Superflex. This is half-point PPR, 1 quarterback, 2 Superflex spots, and 3 wide receivers. So he could start up to 3 quarterbacks here. He has Kyler and Drake London.
What are we?
Pick Marvin Harrison Jr. or Jaden Daniels.
Marvin.
Can you trade down?
Yeah, I still want Marvin Harrison Jr. personally.
Man.
But I probably do want to trade down and just have
back
more
in this league is gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. If you can trade back just a couple spots, keep yourself in quarterback range, you can keep yourself in the top 5.
Can you trade the 102 for Jordan Love?
Can you trade the 102 for the 105 and a couple extra picks along the way? Just to help give yourself some depth in a 16-teamer.
Yeah.
You know, with the 2 Superflex slots, yes, it'd be awesome to start 3 quarterbacks, but man, and with that being the case, you charge a heck of a premium for moving up to a spot where you can even draft a quarterback. So that would be my move, my suggestion. But
and also, just this applies to anybody. Don't let having Drake London stop you from drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. by any means. Please. Sean, you want to give us one more before we head out? This is from Trillist1, 10-team Superflex PPR and PPC, point per completion. I'm assuming point per carry. Yes. Start 10, but only have to start 1 wide receiver, 1 running back, and 5 flex spots. Running backs are dominant. Would you trade Jahmyr Gibbs for the 107, 202, 204, and an early 25 second all in this season? He said he's all in. He finished second.
No.
Yeah, if running backs are dominant.
Not in this draft. Because you can't. I don't feel good about replacing.
Value. You can't recoup your running back. You're moving too far the other direction. If you were competitive, unless you're willing to just say, hey, I'm going to reestablish, because that's what that move is. Yep. That is a great pivot move, but not one for if you're trying to stay competitive and try to win a championship again or get into the championship, whatever. That's not the move to do it, because like you said, you're not going to recoup a running back with those picks unless, you know, I don't want to put this unless, because I don't want to make a trade without making this trade, because I don't know that trade is going to make sense. So if I can't make that trade, the second trade, then this first one doesn't make sense. Don't do that. So I think it's stay put, find other ways to get some value, because that ain't it. Yeah, I don't have a better solution.
Yeah,
personally.
All right. Guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. 2 mocks, 3 days of drafting until the NFL switches it to a 7-day draft, 1 day per round, and then they'll add another couple rounds and 4 games to the regular season. So I could see it happening.
Also,
so
football Monday through Friday.
I think that's what they want to do.
Tuesday night football.
I've talked about it on my podcast. That's absolutely coming. They're doing Wednesday football now before Christmas. They're doing Black Friday football.
Give me my Christmas back.
Football every day is
Yeah.
coming.
No,
it is coming slowly but surely.
You know what? And I don't like it. They're always talking about player safety. The players
Not
want
true.
they want consistency.
There's no such thing.
They talk about it, but they don't care about it.
There's
What
no
they
such
care
thing.
about
It's a
is
conversation
this.
for a different day, guys.
Yes.
There's no
Let's
such
get
thing.
out of here.
That being said, we're going to head out. Hey, don't forget to pick up your copy of our 2024 Rookie Draft Guide. Link is down below. Yes, Bob.
I just wanted to ask how you did it. So link is down below. That's one way to do it. Also, patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. The goalies will get free access to that included with their membership as soon as we hit the publish button on the thing. We were waiting for the upload to happen. As we were setting up for this live, that's why we're a little late. Again, part 2, we were planning to go live at 10 Eastern. Ended up going at 10:30. Ended up going at 10:35-ish. Apologies again, but hey, we were putting a ton of work into this. We stayed up till 2:30 some in the morning. Got
Nate
up
and I
again at
did not stay
6:30.
until 2:30.
Wait, almost.
I mean, we were putting in the work on this thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys check it out. Hope you guys check out the Patreon as well. It's a great time to check it out. If you ever thought about it, now is an awesome time to check it out. You get the guide as well. You just see what else we got going on. You got the rankings, you got the priority chat Discord, you have the entire Discord, the most active Discord community. Ton of fun in there.
And we know
love
your
hanging out
name.
with you guys, and we know your name.
But listen, we understand that not everybody's, as good financially. There are ways to support us for free. You can like this channel. You can share any of our content on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it's called. You can download our podcast for free. If you do that, listen to it on Spotify. That helps us as well. So there's plenty of ways to support us without spending a dime. That being said, we appreciate all of you. So until next live stream, Zach, I don't know when that's going to be. For Zach, for Bob, for Nate, I'm your host, Michael Bauer. We'll see you next time, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Dynasty Rewind. Please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. And as always, be kind, please rewind.